Okay, so let's start with the warm-up. You have a new car that's purchased at $25,000. The value of the car depreciates at 8.25% a year. What will the value of the car be to the nearest cent after 15 years? Okay, so we're just going to use a formula we talked about yesterday in our notes. If you don't remember, flip back. It's this one right here. We're looking at this one right here. So we have our function on time equals my principal or my starting amount times 1 plus or minus. So if we're increasing, we use plus. If we're decreasing, like depreciating a car, we're going to do minus. My interest rate, and we typically write our interest rate in terms of percentages, not a percentage as a decimal. And then we're going to raise that to the t. So whatever goes here will end up being plugged in here. Okay, so if I wanted to write my principal, obviously my principal would just be $25,000. My rate would be, it says 8.25%, so we're going to write that at 0.0825. And my time is going to be 15. Okay, so we have a function, I'm not going to use time yet, is 25,000, 1, 2, 3. We are depreciating, so it's going to be 1 minus 0.0825, and I'm going to raise that to the t. Okay, so if I want to copy this, let's go ahead and rewrite this. Instead of t now, we're going to write this using 15. So we have 25,000, 1 minus 0.0825, all raised to the 15th power. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use our handy dandy calculator as it's loading. So we're just going to plug in 25, 1, 2, 3 times 1 minus 0.0825. We're going to raise that to the 15th power. Right? So now we want to round to the nearest cent. So the nearest cent would be 2 decimal places. So if I want to write this, let's go ahead and do this. We need it in blue. So we're going to say f of 15 it's going to be 6,871.1764. I'm going to leave this here, right? So we're rounding to the nearest cent. This is what we're rounding to, and the 6 tells me, the next number tells me if I round up or leave it alone. So my final answer, this tells me we round up, so we're going to say $6,871.18 is our answer. So after 15 years, that's how much my vehicle is going to be worth. With example 1, we're going to use the other form of our formula, right? So if you look back at your notes, you'd have seen something that looked like y equals a times b to the x, right? So a is still going to be our y-intercept or our starting point. Remember when we say our y-intercept, that's just, we're thinking when is x equal to 0. Our common base, our common ratio is going to be b. Our base is our common ratio. If we're multiplying, it's going to be bigger than 1. If we're dividing by a number, it's going to be written as a fraction. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at this, right? So the first thing we're going to notice is that right here, we have x equals 0. Whenever we have 0, x equals 0, that number, the y that is associated with it is going to be my y-intercept or my starting point. So we're going to say that for this problem, a is equal to 2, right? And what we need to do now is figure out what is our common ratio. So we're going to take a look at the table. So we're going to figure out how much I'm multiplying at each step for both, right? So remember when we say our common ratio or our common difference, we're going to look at our slope, or we're going to say our change in y over a change in x, right? So as I'm going for every 4, when I go from 2 to 8, I'm multiplying by 4. The next step, I'm again multiplying by 4. the next step, again, I'm multiplying by 4. So my common ratio is going to be 4. So if I want to write just all we have to do is find the equation or write the equation, we're just going to do y equals, instead of writing a, I'm now going to write 2. My common ratio is going to be 4. We're going to raise that to the x. And that's your answer to example 1. All right, continuing on the back side, we have letter B. Now this is still example 1. All right, so we're still using the other form of our exponential function. So we're going to say y equals a times b to the x. So we're looking for our y-intercepts, our starting point, and our common ratio. Okay, so again, just looking at the equation, I have x as 0 is given to me, so a is going to be 1. And so now we just need to figure out, all right, so as I'm going from 1 to 0.5 or 1/2, I'm dividing by 2. Okay, you could also say I'm subtracting by 1/2. Okay, but again, these are exponential functions, so they should be multiplying or dividing by the same thing every single time. When I go from 0.5 to 0.25, I have 50 cents. I'm cutting it in half to a quarter. Again, I am dividing by 2, and this would also be dividing by 2. So when we're trying to say divide by 2, we're going to write that as 1/2. Okay. So if I want to write this equation, we're going to write y equals, my starting number is just going to be 1 times 1/2, all raised to the x. All right, so the second type of problem we're going to see in our notes, besides the table, is going to be if I give you 2 separate points now. Okay, so instead of a whole table, I'm only giving you these 2 points. Okay, so write an exponential function. Again, we're just writing in terms of y equals a times b to the x in the form that goes through the points 0, 4, and 296. Okay, so the nice thing is we're already given, we are given my y-intercept. Okay, so a is going to be 4. Okay, let's go ahead and plug that in. Okay, we have y equals 4 b to the x. Okay, now we need to figure out what b is. Now the easiest way for us to do that is to pick a point and plug it in. I would recommend using this point here. Okay, so what's going to happen if you use this point here, anything to the 0 power just gets the b to go away. And we're trying to plug in a point to try and solve for b. Okay, that's our goal right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to use, I'm going to do some blue, I'm going to use this point here. Okay, so I have 196, that's my y for this point, equals 4 times 2, nope, not 2, this is going to end up being b, all raised to the second power. Okay, and now we're trying to solve for b here. Okay, so we're going to start by, we're going to divide by 4 on both sides. All right, so just writing this over here. 4 goes into 19. I can evenly divide 19 by 4 times, because 4 times 4 is 16. The 9 minus 6 is going to be 3, and bring down that 6. And 4 divides 36 evenly 9 times. So on the left-hand side, we're going to be left with 49. On the right-hand side, the 4s are going to reduce down to 1, and we're going to be left with b squared. Okay? All right, so we need to undo our b. So we want to get b by itself. So I'm going to square root both sides. So we get that b is 7. Okay, so now we just need to go back to our original equation. We have y equals, we know our y-intercept, our starting point is 4, and that our common ratio is 7, and we're going to raise that to the x, and that is our exponential function. Okay, last example for our notes. Again, we're using y equals a b to the x, and we're just writing an equation. Okay, and this time our points are going to be 0, 2, and 4, 8,192. Again, don't let that freak you out. We already know what a is, so let's go ahead and start filling that in. We have y equals 2 b to the x. Okay, we're now looking for b. So I'm going to rewrite this whole equation. We're going to have 8,192 192, just plugging in my point here, equals 2 times b all raised to the 4th power. Okay, so solve for b. Working backwards, right? Undo our order of operations. So we're going to undo the multiplication first by dividing by 2. If I bring this over here, 1092, feel free to use a calculator. 8 divided by 2 is going to be 4. Goes in there evenly. 2 does not go into 1 evenly, but it does go into 19, and that's going to be 9, because 2 times 9 is going to be 18, with a remainder of 1, and bring down that 2. 12 divided by 2 is going to be 6, with a remainder of 0. So after dividing by 2, we get 4,096. On the right-hand side, our 2's reduced to 1. We're going to be left with b to the 4th power. Okay, so just like when we did a square, we took the square root, we're going to be taking the 4th root here. Okay, or if you want to think about it using rational exponents, I can raise this to the 1/4 power. Same thing, same idea, same energy. Okay. All right, so when we multiply our powers here, we get b to the 1st power, or just b. And we're going to use our calculator to find our 4th power of this one. Okay, I'm going to pull this up really quick. We have 4,096 raised to the 1/4. So b ends up being 8. So again, I'm just going to erase my b really quick. Use a right size eraser. This is going to be my equation. Okay, all right, so that is the conclusion of our notes. If you have any questions at all, feel free to reach out to me, and I will see you later.